Hey friends, welcome to the Singapore Market Digest for Tuesday, May 27th. I'm Iggy from the Investing Iguana, and today we're diving into what's been happening on the SGX. If you're new here, make sure to hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell so you never miss our daily market updates. We've got some fascinating moves across different sectors today, with companies making strategic partnerships, posting earnings updates, and seeing some board changes. The Singapore market continues to show resilience, and there are some compelling stories emerging that could shape the investment landscape in the coming months. Let's break down what caught our attention and why these developments matter for your portfolio. First up, we have Sembcorp Industries, trading under the ticker U96. This is one of Singapore's major utilities and urban development companies, and they're making serious waves in the renewable energy space. The stock closed Monday up 1.4% or 9 cents at $6.65. Now, this might seem like a modest gain, but the story behind it is much bigger than the numbers suggest. Here's what's driving the excitement. Sembcorp's subsidiary, Sembcorp Utilities, just signed an agreement with several Southeast Asian partners to explore exporting renewable energy from Vietnam into both Malaysia and Singapore. This is a massive deal because it shows how serious the region is getting about cross-border green energy trading. We're talking about a fundamental shift in how Southeast Asia approaches energy security and sustainability. The focus is on tapping into Vietnam's renewable energy resources, especially offshore wind power. Think of it like building a green energy highway across borders. Vietnam has excellent wind resources, particularly offshore, but they need partners with the expertise and infrastructure to turn that potential into actual electricity that can flow to neighboring countries. This is where Sembcorp's decades of experience in utilities and infrastructure development becomes invaluable. For Sembcorp, this fits perfectly with their strategy of becoming a regional leader in sustainable urban solutions. They're not just generating power anymore. They're building the networks that will define how clean energy moves around Southeast Asia in the coming decades. With governments across the region committing to net zero targets, companies like Sembcorp that can facilitate this transition are positioning themselves for significant long-term growth. The renewable energy sector in Southeast Asia is expected to see massive investment over the next decade. We're talking about hundreds of billions of dollars flowing into wind, solar, and energy storage projects. Sembcorp's early move into cross-border energy trading could give them a first-mover advantage in what's likely to become a highly competitive space. Moving to the property sector, Bookets and Bowing Estates, ticker B61, posted some solid numbers for their second half ended March. The stock closed Monday down just 0.3% or 1 cent at $3.92, which is remarkably stable considering the broader property market conditions we've been seeing lately. The company reported a net profit of $51.4 million for the 6-month period, which represents a healthy 13% jump from the $45.6 million they made in the same period last year. What's driving this growth? It's all about project recognition timing in the property business, and this tells us something important about market demand. The profit boost came mainly from recognizing higher profits on 3 key residential projects: Pollen Collection, Live at MB, and Fraser Residence Orchard. In property development, companies recognize profits as projects reach certain completion milestones, so this suggests these developments are progressing well and meeting their sales targets. In a market where many developers are struggling with slower sales, this is actually quite impressive. Bukit and Sembawang has been around since the 1960s and focuses on premium residential and commercial developments. They've built a reputation for quality projects in prime locations. In today's property market, where buyers are being more selective and financing is tighter, having projects that can deliver solid profit recognition is a strong sign of market acceptance and brand strength. The Singapore property market has been through some challenging times recently, with cooling measures and rising interest rates affecting demand. However, well-positioned developers with strong project portfolios are still finding success, particularly in the premium segment where Bookets and Bowing operates. Over in the transport sector, SBS Transit, which trades as S61, had some corporate governance news that's worth noting. The stock closed Monday up 0.4% or 1 cent at $2.75. While this might seem like minor news, it actually reflects some important principles about corporate governance in Singapore. Desmond Chu, who's been serving as a board member since April 2021, stepped down immediately on Monday. This follows his appointment as Minister of State for Defense last Friday. It's pretty standard practice for MPs to step down from corporate boards when they take on ministerial roles to avoid any potential conflicts of interest. This kind of transparency and adherence to governance principles is one of the reasons Singapore maintains its reputation as a trusted financial center. Chu was also on the company's remuneration and nominating committee, so SBS Transit will need to fill those positions. He continues his role as Assistant Secretary General at the National Trades Union Congress, which makes sense since that's more aligned with his political responsibilities. For SBS Transit, this is really just administrative housekeeping. The company operates a significant portion of Singapore's public bus services, so their operations continue as normal regardless of board changes. However, it does highlight the interconnected nature of Singapore's business and political landscape. Finally, let's talk about Boustead Projects, ticker AVM, an engineering and technology group that posted some fascinating mixed results. The stock ended down 1 cent, or 1%, at $1.04. Now, this might look concerning at first glance, but the underlying story is actually quite interesting. Here's where it gets really intriguing. They managed to grow profits by 58% to $59.1 million for the 6 months ended March, even though revenue dropped 42% to $231.9 million. How does that work? It seems counterintuitive, but it's actually a great example of how project-based businesses operate. The company explained that despite lower revenue, they benefited from lower income tax expenses and a one-off gain. This is actually pretty common in project-based businesses like engineering and construction. Sometimes you have periods where you're completing high-margin projects from previous contracts, even if new contract wins are slower. It's all about the timing of project completions and revenue recognition. The revenue decline might reflect the timing of project completions, or a more selective approach to taking on new work. In engineering, it's often better to focus on profitable projects rather than chasing revenue for revenue's sake. This approach can lead to more sustainable long-term growth, even if it means accepting lower revenue in the short term. Boustead operates across several segments, including real estate solutions, process and water engineering, and geospatial technology. The mixed results suggest they're navigating a challenging environment but managing to maintain profitability through smart project selection and operational efficiency. What we're seeing today reflects some broader themes in the Singapore market. Companies are focusing on sustainable growth, whether that's through green energy partnerships like Sembcorp, steady project execution like Bookets and Sembawang, or maintaining profitability despite revenue pressures like Boustead. This focus on quality over quantity is becoming increasingly important in today's economic environment. The renewable energy story is particularly worth watching. As Southeast Asia pushes toward carbon neutrality goals, companies that can build the infrastructure for cross-border green energy trading could see significant opportunities ahead. We're likely to see more partnerships and collaborations in this space as countries work together to meet their climate commitments. For retail investors, these developments highlight the importance of looking beyond short-term price movements to understand the underlying business fundamentals and strategic positioning. Companies that are adapting to long-term trends like sustainability, demographic changes, and technological advancement are likely to be better positioned for future growth. That's the scoop for today. Remember to do your own research before making any investment decisions. These are just my observations based on the latest market developments, and every investment carries risk. If you found this video helpful, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more daily market insights. This is Iggy from the Investing Iguana, signing off. See you tomorrow for another Market Digest.